Let's call the meeting to order. So why don't we go with the introductions first? And we do have a roll call for the council members who are members of the Juvenile Justice Committee. And then after that, we will let everybody introduce themselves. So Joy, do you mind just starting with the committee members?
Yes, good morning, everyone. I am going to go through the list and call out the names. If you hear your name, just say present or just raise your hands. Thank you. The first on the list is Zan Ojoro.
Present.
Sarah Collins. Sam Cole.
Present.
Tim Lay.
Present.
Andy Leonard. Tabitha Lewis. Adrian Livingston.
Present.
Deborah Martin.
Here.
Christina McMahon. Maricela Ortega.
Present.
Molly Rogers. And last on the list is Kiwi Wilson. I think that's it. I'm going to pass it on back to you, Anya.
Awesome, thank you, Joy. So let's do a quick introduction of YDD staff, and then we will welcome our guests. So I'm Anya Sekino. I'm the Associate Director of YDO, and this is my area of work, juvenile justice, juvenile crime prevention, and so forth. And I will pass it on just to make it quick. Joy, why don't you introduce yourself? You're the most important person in this meeting.
Thanks,
Without
Anya.
Joy, everything falls apart.
Thanks, Anya. I'm Joy Snyder. I'm the Prevention and Justice Admin Specialist. And I will pass it on to Lindsay.
Thank you. I'm Lindsay Schoonover, and I am the Compliance Monitor for Oregon. I will pass it to Lawrence.
Thank you, Lindsay. My name is Lawrence White. I am the Racial and Ethnic Disparity Coordinator with Youth Development Oregon. And with that, I'll pass it back to Anya.
Thank you, Lawrence. You will be hearing during the meeting later on from both Lawrence and Lindsay on the status of our compliance with the Federal Act. So now we have a recurring guest here. Nella, I think we should make you like a community partner for the meeting.
That sounds good. Hi, everyone. My name is Nella Hogberg. I'm a delinquency analyst with the Oregon Judicial Department, and I work primarily on the Juvenile Delinquency Improvement Program. So
Awesome.
great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you, Nella. And now our super important guests, Annette and Christy. And I was hoping to stall us. Oh, there's Molly. So awesome. It's perfect timing. So Molly Rogers has joined us online. Molly, I'm sorry I told people that you are not feeling super well, but you will be joining us over the phone initially, and then you will hopefully we will be able to see your face. So
Anya, I'm going to try to keep my camera off because I'm going to cough and cough and cough. So I'm going to keep my camera but I am here.
So you're in charge of the meeting from now on. Would you like to let our wonderful guests introduce themselves?
Yes, I would love. I'm so thankful that System of Care is with us today and going to share with us. So yes, I would love to let them introduce themselves and share some information with us.
Awesome, Christy and Annette, it's all yours. Just like whichever format you want to chat, you want to show us something. It's entirely up to you. We're just glad that you're here.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks so much for having us. I'm just going to quickly introduce myself and then turn it over to Annette, who is co-chair for SOCAC. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the role of this council and kind of why we're curious about the work you are all doing, particularly around the juvenile justice detention guidelines. But for those who don't know me, I'm Christy Hudson. I use she, her pronouns. I'm transformation manager for the System of Care Advisory Council, one of 4 staff to the council that was established in Senate Bill 1 back in 2019. And with that, I will turn it over to Annette.
Hi, I'm Annette Machikotami. I'm the co-chair of the System of Care Advisory Council. I came to the council originally, first of all, I work for a POIC, Community Healing Initiative, primarily with families and youth impacted by juvenile justice. So it's a culturally specific program, so we work with that population. Came to the System of Care Advisory Council right at the beginning of COVID and became the co-chair shortly thereafter. So my particular role, number one, I'm lifting up community voice and family voice, and those families overrepresented in the juvenile justice system who just don't seem to get the opportunities for diversion and other what do you call it? I'm drawing a blank. Other things that would help them curb them out of the juvenile justice system. So my role on the council is lifting that voice up. The council is, and also I see myself as lifting up those families who are particularly forgotten and not thought of when it comes to alternatives to incarceration and things that could lead them down the path to that juvenile justice path. So that's my role. That's my work and my role on the council. I still consider myself lifting up that voice. The council in itself is really focused on youth and family voice. And I feel like that's in particular where my voice is the loudest in ensuring that that families get the services they need, whatever that is, prior to entering the juvenile justice system. So that could be different types of diversion. It could be family support, which I do a lot of, and found that families are in particular are entering a system that wasn't always supportive of them, and in part being blamed for why their child is in that situation. And the system does not own up to the fact that those folks didn't have interventions, that those folks experienced system push out. They experienced not having the services that they needed initially. And so it just led to a spiraling of their kid being in the justice system. So my role on the council is lifting that up, as well, just ensuring that families overall get the service they need when they need it, no matter what door they come through. So whether it's through the education, whether it's through detention, whether it's through DHS, that at that point we recognize that families need support and kids need support too. So that is the role on the council. The council is feels like it's well suited to enact those interventions and make sure that that families get the services that they need. So that's my role on the council, and I enjoy being on it. I feel like the youth and family in particular, family voice has not always been heard. And so if you can imagine, if family voice isn't being heard, then Black and brown family voice really isn't being heard. So we are always striving to make sure that families just have access. I find that a lot of the interventions, it's about access, and not having that, and not having someone who can speak to you. I recall when I had a child going through the system, I was told, well, you don't speak their language. So, well, I shouldn't have to speak their language. I'm coming here for support for my child. I shouldn't have to speak some coded language. So I think that's important. That's where a lot of hangups are, that parents are they're just not listened to. And so it feels like that family voice and youth voice is very loud, and it needs to be louder to make sure that families get the support that they need, whatever it is, if it's juvenile justice, if it's mental, behavioral health, if it's physical health, if families are just lacking basic needs in life, food, clothing, shelter, that can adequately address some of the situations they find themselves in. That's the kind of interventions that we are supporting, that families get the services and that they need. Christy?
Yeah, thanks, Annette. So I think in terms of the juvenile justice detention guidelines, I listened into a meeting you all held, I think maybe it was last month, and it was the first time I had learned about your role in updating the guidelines, and took a look at the guidelines and thought, I think system of care and our partners on the council and locally could have some things to contribute to the next revision. So we met with Anya last week, with both Annette and then Sonia Little Deer Evans, who some of you may know. She's the juvenile detention director in Deschutes County. She's also an appointed member to the council. And we had a great conversation. And so we're here to offer our support on behalf of the council to the guidelines, in whatever way is meaningful. So really wanting to help improve the guidelines. I think particularly around the behavioral health supports and supports for youth with IDD services, we could bring some attention. And I think also in terms of transition support. So kind of all the wraparound supports that are available in community when youth are leaving facilities. And also bringing in family voice, as Annette so articulated so beautifully. So happy to answer any questions you all have about the council, kind of about our priorities generally, but here to talk about kind of next steps in bringing you some important feedback.
Anya, do you want me to take it?
It's your meeting.
Okay.
Coughing is not an excuse.
So are there any questions from, I happen to have been kind of aware of system of care. Anna Williams, the executive director, happens to come from my area, the neck of the woods, and so connected with her over the years, as well as have had the opportunity to be in a couple different meetings. But any questions from the juvenile justice group subcommittee about system of care? Christy, would you mind just doing just a kind of a little bit of the makeup of the council for everybody to kind of know, because many of us participate in the Youth Development Council, which is almost a partner council to system of care.
Yeah.
And we have, a variety of people on our council, including youth members and family members and a variety of different people. So I just want to share a little bit about the who is on the system of care.
Yeah, happy to. And to be like really honest with you about it, right? I think, Anna and I have been talking with Brian and Paul about the overlap between YDO and the Youth Development Council, the committees of the Youth Development Council, and the overlap with the system of care. And there is a Venn diagram, and we are beginning to realize that the overlap and the work that you all do and that we all do is very similar, very overlapped. So curious to kind of, continue this conversation and kind of figuring out where our partnerships and our intersections. But the System of Care Advisory Council, well, let me step back. System of Care is a national framework. It's been around for a long time. SAMHSA has put money into System of Care. Most states have a System of Care, but it looks really different kind of depending on the state. In Oregon, System of Care as a philosophy, as an approach, has been around since I think 2014. It's a part of the Coordinated Care Organization contract. They must locally convene systems of care whereby they bring together partners from behavioral health, IDD services, education, juvenile justice, public health, tribes, youth, and family, bringing them together to identify systemic barriers in the system. And by the system, I mean services and supports for those age 0 to 25, and young people who have complex behavioral health conditions and intellectual and developmental disabilities and related needs. So 0 to 25, young people and their families, and particularly trying to reduce involvement in multiple systems. So this system of care strategic plan is really trying to reduce the number of young people who are involved in multiple systems. And by systems, we're specifically talking about behavioral health services, IDD services, and then really trying to prevent downstream involvement with child welfare and juvenile justice. So that system of care, kind of generally, System of Care Advisory Council, who Annette and I are representing here, was established in 2019, Senate Bill 1, founded the council, 25 members appointed by the governor. State agencies are represented, specifically OHA, DHS, both child welfare and Department of Developmental Services, Juvenile Justice and OIA are represented. Department of Ed is represented. We have 2 CCOs. We have family and youth representatives and advocates. Tribes are represented. We have a court represent, Oregon Judicial Department representative. Net, who am I missing? Disability Rights Oregon. What's that?
You covered them all.
Okay. 25 members. When the council was originally stood up, it was housed within OHA's now behavioral health division within the child and family behavioral health team. And so it lived there for the first couple of years, was staffed by 1 person. In 21, there was a subsequent bill, Senate Bill 4, that did 2 big things. One, it formally pulled the council out of OHA and recognized it as an independent body. So it's a little bit confusing because we still show up on OHA's website. I still have an OHA email. So we still live with an OHA as like our fiscal sponsor. I think similar to kind of how YDO is positioned within the Department of Ed. So that's familiar to you. But from a policy and systems perspective, we are independent and we provide recommendation directly to all of those agencies plus the governor directly. The second major change of 21 is that it also allowed the council to hire an executive director. And so that's Anna's position. There's myself, and then we have 2 other staff as well. Does that answer your question, Molly?
It does. I knew about it, but I just wanted everyone else to kind of know that it's also this multidisciplinary, multi-community faceted, lots of voice at the table, similar to us at YDO, and that it's this unique partnership that it's embedded in a large state agency as a fiscal entity, yet it has independent policy decision. So you're quite a bit like us, actually.
Yes, and I would say much more similarity with the work of YDO than difference in terms of priority populations and reach, and even how we kind of have organized ourselves. We also put out grants similar to YDO, so lots of similarities for sure.
Thank you. So today, Anya, you're going to help me do this.
Sure.
Because I don't have my 3 screens. Is we really do need to come up with a strategy. We're not doing a full rewrite of the detention guidelines this year. I think everybody kind of knows that. We're going to do just an update of them. And there's a couple reasons why. One is the current guidelines really have not been implemented at all because they were last updated and finished in January of 2020, which we all know was how things then got shut down in so many different ways. But we also know that since January of 2020, there have been some changes in laws. And so we want to make sure that we update that piece of it, or if there's some really obvious best practices that we need to update. And we have a group, we have several people who've been interested in different groups. And so looking at the detention guidelines, I think what we'll do is start from the beginning, which is a very good place to start, is how I've decided through the sound of music. And we'll just set a date for a work group for the first section, and we'll send out the invite to the full count for the Juvenile Justice Subcommittee. And Christy, we can make sure that you're included, and Nella, who is now, I think, an official partner member of our subgroup, to join as well. And we'll just kind of plan an hour and a half, and we'll chunk through those each sections. And so just to make sure that we have our legal updates and really strong best practice updates. But more importantly, I think it really is having everybody understand what the role of detention guidelines are. Because detention guidelines are really just that. They're guidelines for our 11 detention facilities to, they have several statutory mandates that they must do. But when we did the rewrite this last time in the ones that were finished in 2020, we really went through and wanted to add much more to it other than statutes. And so, Annette, I love the family voice that Anya and I just got back from CJJ in Washington, D.C., where we were just like overwhelmed at the addition of information that family and youth can give us in our system, because families and youth are the experts in our system. They're the experts about our system because they experience our system. And so I love the fact that we have some family voice added to the mix to make sure that we aren't missing anything glaringly. Oh, Marcella, it's good to see you. You also were with us at CJJ, which was amazing. And I think you might agree that it was just really overwhelming, the youth and the family voice that just was like, here we are, we need to talk. So that is my thought. I'll push back if there's a different way to go about it. I just trying to do doodle polls for everybody who's interested is going to be somewhat of a administrative nightmare. So I think if we just do we're going to take section 1 and we're going to do it on this date between this time and this time, and anybody who wants to participate, please join in and participate. Does that seem at all reasonable, Anya?
So yeah, yes, and let's think about it a little more.
Okay.
There are, I think, 9 sections.
Yes.
If we do 1 section at a time, that we're looking at 9 meetings.
We could
So
do
that's-
2 sections. Some of them
yeah,
are simple.
So, right. So maybe just I agree with you. We should get together. The couple of things that we might consider doing prior to that meeting, and then frame how we want to proceed afterwards.
Yeah.
Just put in the chat the Word document version of the guidelines. Can everybody
Yes.
open it? Does it open, or does it have some kind of unnecessary protection? Sometimes I just don't know how to remove them, honestly.
We can open it.
Yeah, if you can open it, then you should be able to edit it. So what I would suggest, if we would consider doing, just make a copy of the guidelines your own, put your name there, saved as Adrian's copy, right? And you start looking at it. You don't need to look at all of the 9 sections, but if 9 sections are of interest to you, then look at all 9. But for the first meeting, Molly, we'll be looking at first 2 or 3.
First, I think the first 3 probably could be done quickly together. It's when we get into the programming pieces, I think they're more complicated.
So make those guidelines your own, make a copy your own, and add edits, questions, notes, whatever you want to. If you don't understand something and you want additional information about, put a note. What does it mean, right? So those are the things that we could discuss at the, I don't know, it's probably going to be online meeting, right, Molly? Just because people are.
Yes, it's going to be it's going to be a virtual meeting that to come together and kind of wrap those up with the final recommendations. But I love your idea of getting it ahead of time as much as possible.
Yeah, just play with your own copy. Well, play probably is not the right word, but make use of that copy to the extent that you're willing to and able. And I know Christina's volunteered a few of her staff to take a look at them, the same thing. But for like, if you have a group of people looking at it, maybe like make it a copy, say if it's Christina's copy, should be Clackamas County. So we have all this input together. It will be a little easier for us to compile them all together. Christine, does it make sense?
I have a quick question, sorry.
Sure, Marissa.
So do we intentionally want folks to do this separately, or would a Google Doc, like a working document, be better? We want them to be separate?
I see Zen has the same love for Google Documents as I do.
My fear is that it'll just get really muddy because there are so many of us, and I think that we'll end up with something that's hard to follow. So I think that merging it and then looking at it again is going to be important. But I'm a little concerned about trying to do it all in one.
Yeah, appreciate thing. But then once we got individual edits, then we can compile them together, and then make it a commonly accessible document when everybody can see it. Does it make sense?
It does to me. And my question is for you, with some of the other things off your plate right now, does it seem like the timing is appropriate to do that?
Well, I don't have anything off my plate.
The audit's done.
Well, the audit is, but the fiscal year 24 solicitation is on. So we need to
Yes.
develop a 3-year plan between now and August 5th.
Oh, okay.
So after August 5th, then
Oh.
my plate will be a little empty, then I can go and but we should probably have a meeting between now
Yes.
and August 5th anyway, to get it going.
Yes,
What do you think?
I agree.
And I didn't mean to complain, by the way, about my plate. It's just like we'll have the second part of this meeting to talk about what not just me, of course, but our team is working on.
Other thoughts? Adrian or Debbie or just or Marcella, other thoughts?
I mean, no, that works for me. And just when you set up the meetings, just obviously kind of list which sections are going to be reviewed, so we kind of know which ones we need to accept based on what we had agreed to review. And then also if it's a time, and I totally like as a person who tries to schedule a lot of meetings with a lot of busy folks, yeah, it is no fun. And even tracking doodle polls and stuff gets really tedious. So knowing that not everyone will be able to make said meetings, what's the other way to submit input? So if it's hey, we have a Word version and we can, make comments or edits and just submit that, is that how you would like it? Or what's the other option if we can't make the meeting?
I think if you can, Molly, it's up to you, but if you cannot make the meeting, maybe email it to Molly, Joy, and myself.
Prior to the meeting, if at all possible, but if not, even after the meeting, still, just so that the voice is at the table.
Yeah.
So yes, totally. We'll make sure that it's the meeting option as well as just email in.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Molly, or maybe this is a question for Anya. Do you know when you might have the meeting dates identified?
Yeah, hopefully Anya and I can email back and forth pretty quickly after this meeting. And I think because we have two things going, so our next meeting needs to be on the 3-year plan for this time slot. And so within maybe by Monday, Anya, could we have them out?
By
do that
Monday next week,
yeah,
July 1st.
Just have the date set.
Yeah, if you could stay, if you feel well enough to stay a little longer after the meeting, maybe you and I could discuss what a few possibilities could be.
Okay. Yeah. So, or we'll shoot out a couple different ones. I think we don't have to have this particular document done by August 5th. This one does not have the same deadline as our 3-year plan.
I think realistically, it would be good to have them done by the end of this year.
Yes, by the end of the calendar.
Finalized by the end of calendar year 24.
And I know that the detention managers want to participate as well. And they have their next meeting, the 24th and 25th of July.
Well, same thing. I mean, Molly and Christina, if you don't mind sharing this information with detention managers and have them take a look at the guidelines and give us their feedback?
Yeah, I'm going to be at their meeting. It happens to be in my.
Oh, you will be?
I will be
Awesome.
because it's at Norcor. So I'm going to attend their meeting that day. We have 1115 waiver to talk about as well as the detention guidelines. So hopefully I can get some of their energy and participation as well. So Christy, I would not anticipate the first meeting till towards the end of July.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that sounds great. I think from the SOCAC perspective, I'll just wait till all those dates are confirmed and then kind of all together send an email out to the agency reps and family and youth reps and that we talked about with Sonia. And then I can do my best to kind of collect and collate all of that feedback. I think I'll probably just use Teams because most of those agency partners at least will be Teams. And then people outside the state system, I can just be the kind of the lead contact to compile all of that for you all. So you're
That would
not
be great.
That'll
okay.
be amazing. Thank you.
And then
for
I'll
this.
also share the meeting dates and times. I mean, I will try to make those as well, but I'm not the subject matter expert in all of those various areas. So I will also try and encourage and get the right people to those various subject specific meetings.
Great.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And Nella, the same, if there's somebody on yours that have some subject matter expertise, you can be the point person for OJD.
Sounds good.
Perfect. Okay. All right. I think we have the beginning of a plan.
I think so. You know, plans
change.
Plans change, and you know, just as long as we know what we're doing and what's the final product supposed to look like, right? So
I'm so sorry for coughing. Sorry.
I'm just feel so badly that you're not feeling well and yet you're facilitating.
Well, the next piece also requires scheduling.
Right.
And that is our 30-day detention review.
So that one, for one thing, I would hope we will finalize who is going to be the review group. I know that Sam has no excuse.
Yes.
I have no excuse. So I don't know who else doesn't have an Lawrence, you probably don't have an excuse either. Or you can excuse yourself.
So I would really encourage, if at all possible, somebody who has not been to a detention facility, who has an interest in joining us at the detention facility. So, who has, I mean, by all means I could go, but I've, thanks, Annette. We will make sure you have, know when our meetings are. So Kim or Maricela or Adrian, Zan, do you have any interest in joining the group that's going to go do the tour of the 30-day program?
When is it? It just depends on the date.
Well, so when we get the team, then we'll decide the date.
So yeah, it just depends on once that date is decided, whether I am able to or not.
Yeah, no, I totally appreciate that.
So Molly, do you mind if I say a few words about our process,
Yes.
how at least I envisioned it, and you know, I may have completely made it all up in my head.
Nope, you do a great job with it.
So we have to aim for September 12th meeting of Youth Development Council, right? It's September 12th, am I correct? Joy, whoever has, yeah, 12th.
Yeah.
So because the final approval of the extended detention program must come from the council. The council should receive recommendations from this group prior to the meeting. So we have to come up with a set of recommendations by August meeting, right? Or at August meeting, we should finalize a set of recommendations. Ideally, it will be to approve the program. But if there is still some revisions to be made, we still need a bit of time to do it. Hopefully, all the revisions that need to be made will happen between now and that August meeting, which I cannot remember what date it is, but it's the fourth week of
It's the fourth Wednesday of August. Yeah.
right. So if possible, we should schedule a site visit to Deschutes County Detention Facility, which is in Bend. Sometime between August 5th, because that's when we need to submit of all our federal stuff, and that meeting in August. So we're looking probably like mid-August. But we also need to coordinate with the detention facility because they need to be ready for us. So that visit will take place then. But once we know who will be on the review team, I will send you all the materials that have been submitted immediately, like today, and we can schedule an interim meeting amongst the review group before the site review to see if there are any questions that we can communicate to the applicant before we do the site visit. So this kind of thing. Does it make sense?
And the site visit itself is typically a morning or an afternoon. It's typically several hours we'll be on site because we'll interview, typically that we've done it, we've interviewed the juvenile detention manager, the juvenile division or juvenile director, and they get to talk us through the program and the application. We've often talked to the teacher, and Sam does. I don't know that we have always talked to the teacher, but Sam goes in and talks to the teacher and has a conversation. And so it's typically, Anya, is that correct? Like that's what we did in the past.
Yes, absolutely. So Sam just sent me an email that he will be out of state for over a month, starting on August 10th.
Yep. So Anya, can I touch upon what Molly just said? And
Sure,
for
of
some
course.
of our members, the average length of stay for according to our data is like roughly like 10 or 8 days, you know. So 30-day detention is a lot longer, and that's a month. And then so that is why for our education programs, instead of trying to reconnect and kind of like touch because our the students will or youth will be there for a longer period of time, the education program has to be different. So that is why, because of the extended time. Now we're talking about hopefully some of these kids while they're there earning academic credit. For the kids that are there for like a night or two, for less than a week, they're not going to earn academic credit. But then that is why when we have extended 30-day detention programs at some of the detention facilities, I like to go and ensure that all these kids that are in the 30-day detention program have an opportunity to earn academic credit. Otherwise, they will fall further behind in realizing their academic credits for a high school diploma. So that is the distinction. And then they're there for a long period. 30 days is a long period versus kids that are there for normally 3 to 4 nights or whatnot.
There's often a big transition piece with the 30-day youth back into their home schools. Isn't that right, Sam?
Yes. And then there's for the last, and then for the reentry, for the juvenile detention guidelines, one thing that I will add is new emphasis and reentry transition from on the education side, because that's our goal. Our goal is for every student that's exiting from detention will be reconnected to a educational placement or workforce preparation program, so that once they leave, they're just not, going anywhere. You know what I mean, right? So so that they have a next place to go, and then to further their education or their vocational activities.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you for this explanation. So now our site visit time has been limited between August 5th and August 10th. So we're looking at August 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th options. Are there any days for those of you who are considering being part of the review group? And Nelly, you absolutely can be, because you are a community partner member like Debbie here, and we appreciate your participation. You don't need to be a council member, you know. Just like we hope that Christy and Annette will come back.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that week would not work for me.
Yeah, unfortunately, I will be at a conference that week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anya, I can participate on if we do it on the 7th, but I also am not sure about the optics for my fellow commissioners in Deschutes County, having a fellow county commissioner come in and review. Don't know.
Well, you're not participating as a Benton County Commissioner. You're there as a member of the Youth Development Council.
I'm willing to help out.
Awesome. I lost my pen. Sorry if I'm moving like a monkey here. Okay, so Kim, it's a shame that you cannot be there, but would you be interested in just reviewing the application and providing your feedback, even if you're not able to do the site visit?
I think it depends on the turnaround, like when you would be able to get that to me and when you would need it back.
Well, I'll get it to you today.
Okay.
And by maybe by the next meeting, July, which is a month from now.
I think that should be fine. Yes, let me, can I talk to you about this after so that I
Oh,
have,
of course, yes, of course.
hang on.
We don't want to push anybody to do anything not, you know.
I just want to make sure I know what I'm signing up for, but yeah, I mean, that sounds like a reasonable turnaround time.
How about we do this? So I will, correct me if I got the names wrong. So I have Sam, Molly, Kim, Sam, and Neller, plus myself as a potential review group. I will send out the application from Deschutes County to that group today. And Adrian, just because the dates don't work for you, would you consider doing it like him? Just reviewing maybe and giving you feedback of any?
Yeah, let's talk afterwards because like Kim, I need to make sure I know what I'm signing up for.
Okay, I'll send it to you anyway.
like
And then now after you look at it and you say, well, it's too much, it's totally fine, right? But I will send it to you. Did I miss somebody like a reluctant volunteer or eager volunteer that I just did not write down? Okay, I'm not pushing it on you. I know that you're busy because we'll have more work for you coming up. So I'll send that to this group. And with the expectation, let me know if you're willing to do it. And if not, just say so. Too much, don't want to, can't. If you're available just to review and get your feedback to the group by the next meeting, awesome. If you're able to review, give feedback, and actually do the site visit, and I think Zen just said it on August 7th. So do the site visit on August 7th, then just, will that work, Molly? Am I making people do things?
No, I think I really I think it's great. And I think Kim and Adrian, I think this is one of those soft touches. It's not such a commitment. So I'm if you read and review it, I think hopefully you'll find it somewhat interesting on and so I'm excited to have you guys just to do that part of it.
That would be awesome because not everybody needs to be there physically unless you're able. Wonderful, thank you so much. So I think we can move on to the next Oh, Molly, sorry, you in charge.
No, Anya, by all means, you're not gonna hurt my
And I
feelings.
don't
Move
see your
along.
face. It's just like I don't. There you go. Thank you. Thank you, Joy. Thank you, Molly. Yeah, so we're done with that.
So Lawrence is up next.
Awesome.
Thank you, Anya. Thank you, Molly. So good afternoon, everyone. Lawrence White, Youth Development Oregon, Racial and Ethnic Disparities Coordinator. I'd like to briefly provide an update on the status of our current fiscal year 2021 and 2022 requests for applications for the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Title II Formula Grants. The RFA is open at this time. There are currently approximately 18 applications in the application phase. The opening of this RFA occurred May 22nd of this year, and it has been posted on our agency's website along with all accompanying attachments and addendums. We are suggesting that at every opportunity, applicants read the RFA in its entirety. I'm sorry. The three program areas for this RFA are community programs and services, alternatives to detention, and delinquency prevention. And all program areas have 2 awards available in each category. So there are a total of 6 grants available for issuance. We held our pre-application information session on Monday, June 10th of this year, and that recording, along with the PowerPoint presentation, can be found on our website under the Prevention and Justice tab. I want to thank Joy for all the work she did in making that happen. Thank you, Joy. I believe we provided very useful information in terms of expectations or scope of activities and requirements of the potential recipients in areas of data collection, collaboration, and reimbursements. So some important dates and deadlines to note with this particular RFA are questions and requests for clarification, unfortunately, are now closed. This period ended on June 24th of 2024. And we anticipate providing an official question and answer document, which will be posted on our agency's website approximately July 1st, 2024 this year. The closing date for this RFA is July 22nd. And we anticipate an issuance of notice of intent to award approximately on August 30th, 2024. The process and platform we are using for applicants to apply is through SurveyMonkey Apply, which we refer to as SM Apply. And again, all information for potential applicants to apply can be found on our agency's website. Also, applicants from federally recognized tribes will be given priority points. A total of 10% of their total evaluation score will be added to the final score. So that's where we are currently in the process of this RFA. And once we've closed the RFA on July 22nd of this year, we will move into the initial phases of determining eligibility and evaluating those applications that responded to our request. At this time, I would like to ask committee members to seriously consider volunteering to be a part of the review process. So yes, we are looking for volunteers at this time for the evaluation portion of this RFA. Please feel free to contact myself or Anya and Joy if you are interested in this needed assistance. So with that, if there are no questions, I'll turn it back over to Anya, and she will discuss the fiscal year 2024 Title II solicitation and 3-year plan. Any questions?
I do have a
Adrian has her hand
question.
up.
Yeah, thank you. One, I'm on the website. Can you put the link exactly where the RFA is listed? Because I'm just going around here. So that would be helpful. That would be one. But then two, I actually have some people. Are you looking also just for community individuals to serve on this RFA process? Because if so, I can send it to other people who have been trained as evaluators to review grants as well to see if they're interested.
Well, in particular, we're looking for committee members because their knowledge in the juvenile justice space is kind of integral to our evaluating this particular RFA. So we're really interested in those with that specific scope of knowledge.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam, for being willing to participate and volunteer. Zan, your hand is up.
I have a question about the length of these applications, just in terms of workload. And I'm assuming, again, that there's a rubric, and so it's a very structured process.
Yes, it is.
And does every reviewer review all of the applications?
No, not all of them. They'll be given a small portion to review. The rubric is very, we tried to simplify it as much as we could to just kind of pinpoint exactly what we're looking for in those program areas and whether or not they meet the qualifications. So it's not an extensive process. It's just a process that has to actually be done. We really have to evaluate. So it's not cumbersome at all. It's not overbearing. It just really takes just a moment to kind of really go through it and give a proper evaluation. And we're just looking for volunteers for that. Like I said, we have 18 thus far. We don't know how many applications we'll have at the end. But if we're kind of halfway through now, maybe 30, if we can get a handful of people, we're looking at maybe 4 to 5 applications apiece. And each application like I said, isn't very cumbersome. So it shouldn't be too much of a task.
Thank you for that. That's helpful. And it looks like because of the timing, when closing 22nd of July and needing to give that decision out to folks by the end of August, that again, this is a task that will need to be done in that first couple of weeks of August kind of timeline.
Yes. Well, we appreciate all the help that we can get. Thank you.
I'm going to say tentatively I can help, but I may have to bail at the last minute if work piles up. But this is a good time of year for me in terms of a little more flexibility.
Well, thank you, Zan. Again, we appreciate anything we can get.
So also with the 4 to 5 applications, about what amount of time do you think a volunteer will be contributing or need to make sure that they are, contributing to evaluate those? That would help me as well.
Well, there's some reading involved because they have a narrative. So depending on how fast someone can read and really decipher the information, or see what the applicant is saying and apply it to what we're asking for. So I really can't put a time on it. It depends on everyone's pace. But
the application then, so if not the pace, because I've reviewed grant applications that are like literally 3 pages to 10 pages. So I'm curious, like how much are they?
Roughly 5 pages.
Okay, that helps.
Yeah.
Because Lawrence was very strict in putting words limit on the application, because we were very adamant that we don't want to read an essay. We just want to know what, who, why, and how. That's all.
Okay, you can sign me up. That was, I needed
Awesome.
to understand my capacity and making sure that when I sign up for something, I like to complete it.
And of course, opening the invitation to our community partners and partnering agencies. So, and if you cannot commit right now, maybe you will consider, give us your decision once all applications are received, because by that time we will also know how many are there, right, Lawrence?
Yes.
Sometimes people tend to wait until the very last day. I've been guilty of that myself. So we will have more information a little later on. But thank you for your willingness. So I have Sam, Zan, and Adrian down so far. Awesome.
And thank you, everyone, for your your willingness to help us with this task. We really appreciate it.
Great. So that is the current. And now, Anya, we get to talk about the future.
Oh, yes. See, the current goes right into the future.
But luckily, we have laid a lot of groundwork for this one.
Right, right. Awesome. So where are we? The solicitation. So solicitation came out, and there's a link to it in the agenda if you're interested in seeing what it takes to apply for federal funds. That might be quite educational, and they are encouraging a lot of writing. So yes, those applications will be long. We'll try to make them as succinct as we possibly can, but there's a lot of information that goes into it. And we had them like, yeah, what are those things? Like little arrows on the agenda. So there are multiple reports, data sets that need to be submitted, analyzed, reviewed, and so forth. So each one of us has a role, and by us right now, I mean the YDD staff. Lawrence has a role, Lindsay has a role, Joy has a role of keeping us all together. I have a role, but also you have a role because you are state advisory group members. We cannot submit that plan without your approval of the funding priorities. Fortunately, we've talked about probation reform earlier during this last year, so hopefully Molly, Maricela, and Lawrence could help me talk about that later. But for now, let's just go through each of the components that need to be submitted, if that's okay with everyone.
That's a great way to go about it.
Awesome. So Lawrence, back to you.
Thank you, Anya. So as mentioned, the solicitation for the OJJDP fiscal year 2024 Title II Formula Grants Program is open, and application submission information is due by Monday, August 5th. One of the mandated requirements from the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention is a racial and ethnic disparity statewide reduction plan, which includes statewide racial and ethnic disparities data at key juvenile justice decision points. Typically, we attain this information as stated from our partners at OYA through the Juvenile Justice Information System, JJIS. Unfortunately, this year we've encountered some unexpected delays in receiving this needed information to submit our plan. So because we are under a bit of a time crunch with the submission requirements, due date being August 5th, we may and will mine the already published juvenile justice statewide data for the mandatory or mandated information we need to receive statewide funding, from the Title II formula grant funding to provide funding for services in juvenile justice here in Oregon. Really at the end of the day, it really just comes down to providing every opportunity available for the youth of Oregon, and especially those involved in the juvenile justice system, an opportunity to overcome obstacles and maximize the potential within them. So, YDO, and I'm sure this committee is committed to doing everything we can to assist in making that happen. Concerning the plan itself, it should be noted that our statewide racial and ethnic disparities reduction plan will align with our ongoing efforts in the area of probation, and also include mention of the great work being done by DDA training committee on reviewing for bias content and the training of new juvenile justice professionals. I think that's important work, and they're doing a great job in that area. So they should be highlighted, especially in an area concerning racial and ethnic disparities. So once again, the plan, once it's written out, please feel free to reach out if anyone would like to review the plan and perhaps offer any subject matter expertise, commentary they may be willing to share. That's kind of where I am with that piece. So that's all I have at this time. If there are no questions, I'll turn it over to Lindsay, and she'll discuss the compliance data report development. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Lawrence? I have just a couple. One is you're so kind about talking about the OJDDA training committee. I just want everyone on our juvenile justice subcommittee to know they feel the same way about Lawrence joining that committee and really being an active member and really lending and leaning in with the training committee. So thank you, Lawrence. That has been a great partnership.
You're more than welcome. Thank you.
And then second, can you help me unpack a little bit about the OYA data part? Is this because of the conversations that we've had around the RRI?
I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
I just know that there's been some sort of a delay in receiving the racial and ethnic disparity data that normally we partner with OYA to receive. But like I said, since we have sort of a time crunch in front of us, you know, we have to manufacture the data, accurate data. So we'll use the statewide published data that is available to us, and we'll just mine that for the criteria that they're looking for.
Okay. Thank you. I
So,
think Christina and I are both interested in that probably. Yes,
Right.
Anya.
So I just wanted to clarify a little bit. So in 2010, Oregon created this automated RRI reports that have been published on OYA website since that time. Before those reports were published, we used to just go into disposition of referral reports, detention reports, referrals reports, all those like already published ones, and pull out the numbers to populate at that time Excel that would calculate RRI index. And for those of you who are not familiar with RRI, that's relative rate index. That used to be the preferred methodology of the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. And that's what Oregon followed, and we have those reports. Like on the website, the OIA website, you will see them for each of the counties. What they don't have is a statewide report, and not the report that we need, because the feds are not interested in county data right now. They're interested in statewide.
Sure.
And also the feds changed the methodology, but they are not interested in RRI. They're interested in population comparison. So we do need just raw numbers from JJs to fill that template that the feds provide us with. So over the last few years, we would send it to OYA judges, and they will fill it out for us and send it back, and we will send it to the feds, right, Lawrence?
Yes.
So this is the moment where we need to, since we're not getting that template filled out by JJ's staff, we have to just go into published report, pull that information, put it into the Excel spreadsheet, and that's it. So it just creates a little bit of additional work for us, but we're still using the information that's been published. So there is still difference. But
Okay.
you know, since the time is really pressing, we just need it done.
Yep. Any other questions from the group? Okay, Lindsay.
Sorry, trying to unmute. Okay, so what can I say about compliance monitoring? Let's see, I wrote some notes down. So about 2 weeks ago, I did my last site visit. It was Milton Freewater, Pendleton, Boardman, Hermiston, that area. So I did about 9 facilities. It was a good visit. I don't have any more planned yet because OJJDP released their date due for the FY23 data I've been collecting since October, which I'm still going through one of my facilities because they had sent so many kids over for the year. But so far for Oregon, I've only found 3 jail removal violations, which is when they hold a kid longer than the allotted time, which Oregon law is 5 hours and the feds give us 6. So that's not bad. 3, I feel like it's not bad for everybody, but so OJJDP wants every state to have at least 85% of their facilities reporting. Last year I hit 85. This year I've got about 95%. So the ones who haven't reported are usually repeat offenders. I either don't get data for them or they don't talk to me at all, which I'm trying. But anyway, yeah, so the date for all of the data I need to have in is August 5th. So maybe I'll try to get some visits in before then, but for now, just talking with the other states, compliance monitors, trying to get our data in and submitted so we can carry on with inspections. And then we'll be ready for our FY24 data collection. I think I've covered everything I've been doing lately.
Awesome. So, 95% of facilities reporting, that's huge.
Yeah.
And we have how many? 200?
About 185 that I need to get data from, because the other ones are like the Department of Corrections that I don't need.
Yeah. So that's a huge amount of information. So you understand. So Lindsay got the logs, like of each kid who was in the locked facility, and some are really scribbles, right, Lindsay?
Yeah, it takes a while to go through.
It's a lot of data cleaning and understanding that goes into the compiled numbers in the end. So thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Lawrence. Do you have any questions for Lindsay, anyone?
No, again, I think just the compliments to Lindsay and having to rewrite our compliance monitoring plan this last year as well. So just huge thank you to Lindsay on getting that done. So no, now it's to you, Anya.
So my part is to ensure that we've reached 32 points of compliance. So that's what goes into that application. Because overall the law requires 32 points of compliance. So Lindsay and Lawrence take care of 4. And then there's remaining 28. So that takes a lot of creative writing and checking information, and that's why it's so important to have this partnership that we've established through the Juvenile Justice Committee and the YDC. But I shouldn't say the most important thing, but the meat of the application is the 3-year plan. So basically we tell the OJDP we've looked at Oregon data, we've analyzed information, we've talked to partners, and this is what we decide to invest federal funds in for the next 3 fiscal years. And that's when the conversation around probation reform comes in. There are multiple program areas that we could look into investing. So, right, Lawrence just talked to you about alternative to detention, community-based programs, and
delinquency prevention.
Delinquency prevention, thank you. But those are a little bit like wide range. But if that's okay for us to continue with the probation reform, so that will be the main investment. The other investment area would be compliance monitoring, because we need to use some of the federal funds to fund for the compliance monitoring position. But that's the only position that will fund with federal dollars. Like everyone else working in a prevention and justice team is state general fund funded. So that said, so the remainder of the award, and we don't know how much money yet, because we usually apply for whatever we received in the previous year, which is about $600,000 per year, and then they will appropriate, the Congress will appropriate, and we'll know how much money we'll receive. So the suggestion is to put whatever money is left available for investment into probation reform. So, and now I will ask Molly and Debbie and Maricela and Lawrence, because the 5 of us went to Baltimore together. That's how it got started. And then Christina couldn't go, but you're also part of that group. And of course, we've had multiple conversations with the Juvenile Court Improvement Project on how we could align our efforts. With that, I will be quiet and I will let the council members talk about probation reform.
Maricela or Debbie or Lawrence?
I have to confess that I don't know what's going on with probation reform in the state right now, so it's very difficult to address the topic.
Sure. So what we did is it's almost been about 18 months ago, our juvenile justice group, our committee, agreed to apply to the Annie Casey Foundation to be a state site. And so after we applied to be a state site, we were chosen by the Annie Casey Foundation to go back to Baltimore for a 1-day intensive kind of kickoff. And so Maricela, Lawrence, myself, Anya, Debbie Martin, and then Christina was going to be a part of it, but was not able to join us because it came right at budget time last year, if I remember right. And so she wasn't able to join us, but went back and spent a very intense day mapping out probation in the state of Oregon and how kids get into the system and where they can divert off of the system. And so that's the foundation and the probation toolkit. And so the CJJ, so Coalition of Juvenile Justice, the Annie Casey Foundation, and OJDD, OJDDP have put out a toolkit on probation reform for state advisory groups. And so the YDC is our state advisory group, and we're just their subcommittee, but it really is around asking jurisdictions to apply for funds to get a team. I mean, there's a whole model for it. You have a team at your county level to then implement using data probation reform. And it really is keeping in at the lead, is leading with equity and racial and ethnic equity to ensure that the system addresses and pays attention to overrepresentation at all decision points. Maricela, Lawrence, Debbie, what do you guys want to weigh in?
So yes, like Molly said, we went back to Baltimore. There were 5 states actually that participated in this all-day training session, really. And between the 5 states that were there, we all shared because probation looks differently in different states. We all shared different ideas. We took away some points. We added some points to other people's plans. So it was really a collaboration from a nationwide standpoint of how probation could work in some areas, should work in some areas, and how it could work in our area here in Oregon. So we've been meeting, I want to say quarterly since that time with other stakeholders and interested in the probation reform efforts here in Oregon, and that work is continuing. It's ongoing and continuous, and so we're really looking at the opportunity to use probation as a way to divert youth out of the juvenile justice system, and I think we have a really good opportunity to do so. We have support not only from the state level but from the federal level, as well as county partners as well. So we're really excited about the trajectory of this moving forward. I don't know if anyone else would like to add to that.
I'll just say that I haven't been super involved with it recently. I did attend the training, and I think my biggest aha from that was really that each county does things differently. And I feel like there were so many variables of whether or not a child has to go through probation or not. And like we talked about whether or not like they're even put into the system, depending on how far the facility is to where they're located. And it just seemed that's just what stood out the most to me, is that there's just so many variables. And that also means that there's a lot of room for bias, you know? And so I think there's a lot of work to be done here. It was really impactful to hear some of the youth voices who have gone through the probation system. And what we kept hearing is how it was just a huge barrier to them, to education, to work, to family, to connections in their community. And so, yeah, I think I kept hearing like, yes, we need probation reform. And I, since have not been super involved, so I don't know what we're doing now or how like I myself can be more involved or help out with that. Yeah.
Debbie, how about you help chair, Debbie, you chair the data committee, and do you see any crossover between the JDIP and probation reform?
There are aspects of it. Nella can speak to it a lot more than I can, for sure. Although Nella and I was like each other's shadow the last couple of weeks. We tend to be in the same meetings a lot recently, but the data committee right now is really more focused on a data dashboard for judges and judicial staff. And so that piece is such a narrow focus, right? Because it's really only youth that have judicial involvement, court involvement. So that's just a really small piece. But what I was thinking of when Maricela said the youth voice is JDIP has a youth, is it council, Nella?
It's a youth board, but we're gonna rebrand the name.
Okay, yeah.
It's young people with lived experience, so
Yeah.
working on the rebrand, but I was thinking that too, Debbie.
Yeah, but it's a group of you, I think mostly youth, not families, that have been through or involved in the system in some way, you know, to participate and provide their input and expertise. And so that I think in thinking about like, oh, a group that's already kind of structured, already kind of, you know, to be able to get some youth voice involvement, that might be a really good connection. The other piece I think about, and Nellie, you'll have to say more about it, is the risk assessment work group. That's the other part that I thought would be a really good connection, but I'm not sure of the exact focus of what they're doing right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was thinking of the same things, Debbie. An update on where we are with the youth board. They're having their last of 5 like pre-scheduled meetings tomorrow. And so that work is kind of wrapping up for now, and then we're planning sustainability as far as relaunching, re-recruitment, things like that, and getting some of the youth that are currently involved in the next cycle of this. But we are wrapping up our current work and probably resuming either in the fall or in the new year. So that's sort of where we are, but absolutely, it's a great place, and just had a great conversation with Anya and Molly and Christina earlier this week about sort of paralleling some of our efforts and making sure when we're convening that group that we're considering some of the other state efforts that could benefit from youth voice. And since it's a existing entity, kind of tapping into that. And on the risk assessment side of things, that group right now, we've got lots of juvenile department voice in that group, and we currently, Caroline isn't here, but they're currently meeting as we speak during the noon hour today in one of their subcommittees. So one of the subcommittees is focused on developing sort of a report tool, which a lot of counties already have, but kind of a standard one for those that don't. And then the other committee is focused on sort of the implementation of that in the juvenile departments. And again, Caroline is more of the expert, so that's my bird's eye view of what's happening in the risk assessment groups. And I absolutely think that there's overlap with sort of down the road with probation reform with what those groups are looking at.
And I think Molly asked about the JDUP data committee, but I think if we're looking for some overlap where some folks might be looking overall at juvenile justice data and wanting to see what more could be tapped into and or inform this work, it would be the JJUS Data and Evaluation Committee, I think. Might be a good connection to if we need a group of folks working on some data elements.
I think that would be great because personally I'm not in this field, in my day-to-day job. So when I think of the data and like what story that tells, I really can't speak to that. And so I think carrying a little bit more of that would be really helpful.
And then Christina and I had the opportunity to present to the judges during one of their educational meetings about probation reform. And Christina, I thought that the judges were really engaged. What did you think?
Yeah, I think it wasn't a gigantic turnout. I think there were some conflicting things going on that day, but the judges who were there seemed very interested and engaged.
So Zan, did I answer your question about probation reform?
Yes, and I think that what I learned is that it sounds like no one agency owns it, and there's a lot going on, and that it's just one of those topics that it needs continued attention and support. Otherwise, it'll get lost in the weeds.
Yes, and I also think, yes, absolutely. And it's broad enough to let community partners, agencies, groups all play in the same sandbox. And yet it's not so broad that we aren't able to move some needles. So that's why I loved our 3-year plan last time, which was delinquency prevention, but that's a very big bucket. And probation reform, while it can be a big bucket, it can also have some outcomes. So Anya, do you need anything from us today about these two things? Of course, the data one with MPC seems very logical to continue forward. Do you need anything?
Just a general consensus that's the direction we're going with, so I don't spend several days writing the plan and then bring it to you and you say never heard of it. Yeah. The initial buy-in, and I know Sam wrote there about investing in positive results in the study. So the study is the MPC research evaluation of juvenile crime prevention programs for the last biennium. So Sam, not to contradict, but those findings will be brought into the new juvenile crime plans development. They're not necessary. So they're like self-improvement for our general fund, juvenile crime prevention, not for the federal ones. So and yes, and then I also wrote, so MPC research is also working on the juvenile crime analysis for the last 3 years. So the crime analysis is a required element of our application for federal funds. So every 3 years we do the analysis. Well, MPC does an analysis on our at our request. They share the findings. We look at the findings and see what are the main trends in juvenile justice, and that also informs our planning efforts. We also asked, I don't know when they will be done. My hope is by the end of July, because they do know that we have to submit that application ASAP. But I know they started working on it. That's why I asked anybody who has any questions or any follow-up with JCP evaluation to hold on until they can complete the crime analysis. So if everything works, it will be done in July. So as soon as they send it to us, I'll share with you all. And we'll also ask them to, so it's for the last 3 years, but we'll also have the analysis for the 3 years prior. So hopefully they can show some trends for the last 6 years. And of course, it will make sense because COVID kind of hit in the middle. So it's to see like how things have changed. So I just needed to make sure that you're aware of that's coming. And yes, solicitation was not released until what, late May or early June, somewhere recently.
Yes, it's a fast turnaround.
Oh yeah, it's always right. So
Yeah.
we kind of knew it's coming, but yeah, so we are preparing. But it's just they also in each new solicitation there are changes. So it's not like you can take what you wrote 3 years ago and change the date.
So general consensus. Just kind of getting a feel for, is there anyone who is really opposed or has significant concerns about probation reform that we need to further vet or have questions answered? Or is it okay for us to kind of give the go ahead for Anya to kind of start spending her time on that particular piece?
Hey, Molly.
Yeah.
I'm just, I see that Sam put a note in here, so Sam, I'm not really totally tracking which specific things from the, I think you're talking about the NPC report that they did.
Anya just spoke about it.
Yeah.
You said it's gonna be, it's like a different biennia, right, Anya? You want to repeat what you said?
No, well, yeah, no, I get that, Sam, but I'm talking about the specific when you say, I support funding probation reform, but if you need another idea, related to investing in the positive results that the study identified. So I'm just curious, what was jumping out at you? Which program or, which element of that was jumping out at you? I just don't want to miss out on what your other, I don't hear you saying no to probation reform. It sounds like it's probation reform and I'm trying to understand what the and is.
Right. And whatever, and then I don't remember specifically what like I think at the last YDO meeting, the researchers said like there were some positive, factors that contribute that reduce, and I forget which were the top three, and unfortunately I don't have their findings, like whichever top three or top one or two, like let's focus on, because that's what. And then the thing that I really liked about the study that they said last time was it was Oregon data. It wasn't national data. They looked at the crime prevention, from Oregon. So that's why like, I figured like, just as a thought.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I wasn't trying to put you on the spot. I was just trying to make sure I was tracking it. Thank you.
Right. And Maricela, thank you. Yeah. Trusting a trusted adult and also preventing running away. Those are the key findings, which can be both addressed in probation reform, by the way, efforts.
So could mentoring be like a trusted adult?
Yeah, if they trust them, why not?
So Sam, I think what you'll find is there's crossover in probation reform. And the runaways are one that that Christina and I have been really paying attention to as being key escalators for kids going deeper into the system. And so there's definitely crossover, and the report from MPC could help. I mean, it affirms what we are learning in probation reform. You're spot on.
Yeah.
We'll also be sharing that report as part of our application, because when we were going through the audit, we talked with our federal counterpart about what's the decision process we have, what kind of information we look at. And that was, we mentioned that we have the state general fund dedicated to the crime prevention things, and we do evaluation. So she was super interested in it. So it will become part of the application, and we will use the key findings as guiding principles as well. So yes, positive, trusted adult, preventing running away, trajectories, and so forth.
And then I'll also mention, I don't know if this is helpful at all, but in our training, they did talk about youth brain development and just you know, how important it is to have positive reinforcements and incentives for youth. Whereas like traditional probation is really focused on the negative, like stay away from those bad friends, instead of like, how can we put you in a situation where you can be around people that are like-minded and trying to better their lives. And so that really spoke to me, and I think that this work is important.
Great catch, Maricela. That was so true.
And so just so pragmatically, it's like this. So we apply for the funds, we'll say that that's our intent of the state to use them for safer probation. And then in turn, the state will issue sub-grants to eligible applicants to actually do changes to their probation system in their jurisdiction. And that on our solicitation will include providing positive, trusted adults, you know, all these things that we want them to include into their program. Does that make sense?
Oh, and Anya, thank you so much for bringing one key piece up. This is voluntary for jurisdictions to apply for. I want to make sure that we message out that the Juvenile Justice Committee of the Youth Development Council, our SAG, is not mandating that all jurisdictions in the state of Oregon do probation reform. I just want to make sure that we're clear that it's that hopefully there'll be several that want to do it, and we will all learn from best practices, but that this is based on supporting and through funding opportunities, not a mandate. Right, Christina? We want, like, I don't want jurisdictions to be panicking.
No, right. It's totally voluntary. It just, as a state group, right? We're partnering with other state groups.
Yes.
And you're completely right. Nobody has ownership of this. It's just trying to convene various efforts. And then hopefully there will be a jurisdiction within the state who would be willing to try. We don't know who that is.
Oh, I was just going to share, and Molly, I think you're aware, Joe Ferguson down in Jackson County, they've been going through, they did a big analysis and really examining on their own without any technical assistance. It's taken them months, but going through the different elements of probation reform to see how they stack up. So I haven't seen his final report about that, but that's an example of there's a jurisdiction in Oregon that wants to do probation reform, has spent a lot of time thinking about, okay, where are our gaps that, for example, might be willing to participate, even though Joe's retiring on Friday. His predecessor was very involved in that work. So I think there are jurisdictions in Oregon that are interested in diving into this.
Absolutely. And Multnomah County has actually been one of the sites working with the Annie Casey Foundation for about the last 24 months. And so also to acknowledge that, but just sometimes messaging gets out that YDC is mandating something, and we're not. We're just giving opportunities.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm hearing consensus, Anya. I'm hearing
Awesome.
like
I really, really appreciate it. So that's enough of
as I say, with that, I don't have anything more for the agenda. Do you?
well, I actually do, if that's okay. And it's on the agenda. I did not put the date of the next committee meeting because I would like to ask your kindness if we could change it. The reason for it being that on the 24th of July, I have to attend the government to government summit when the governor and state agencies meet with the 9 federally recognized tribes. It's the same day. So, and there are 5 Wednesdays during July. Did you see that? That's
I
supposed
did
to
notice that.
5
Can we move it
Mondays.
to the
so
fifth
it's
Wednesday?
like, seriously? So I was hoping that we could either move it a week later or a week earlier. Probably
So a
later
week
because
earlier would be OJDD, would conflict with OJDDA. So if we can move it to the 5th week, that would,
if that works for people, I would really, really appreciate your flexibility. It's an extra Wednesday, really.
so I'm
Unfortunately,
seeing silence is a consensus.
it doesn't work for me, but please meet
Oh.
without me. Unfortunately, I'll be at a training in Indianapolis, so
Oh, fun. Well, we'll
That
send
sounds
you a
fun.
draft. We'll send you a draft so you can review and give your feedback if that works for you. Thank you.
I also don't think I'll be, is that the July 31st?
No, that will be July 29th or something.
it's the 31st, I believe.
The Wednesday is on the 31st. Monday is the 29th.
Yeah, you're right. The 31st. Is that?
It doesn't work for me, but that's okay.
So I'll send you a draft to look at if you like it.
Anya, so I'll be in Seattle and yeah, different. So if you can send it to me too.
Who is that? Is that Adrian?
Yes.
Oh, so
Well,
we're
another option is to still have the meeting on the 24th. And if we do it virtually, I could just sneak out to my room
okay.
for the
Let's
meeting.
plan on the 24th.
That didn't sound like very professional, right? I'll sneak out to my room. But I mean, I will leave the meeting, the governors, the summit. I'll go to my room and I'll tune in to the meeting. And this way we don't have to change anything. I think I can do without lunch and, because part of it is lunch anyway. So that should work. Let's not change the date. And 24th works for Maricela, Neller, and Adrian. Awesome. I look forward to seeing you on screen on the 24th.
Thank you, Anya. All right. Now, do we have anything else?
No, we don't.
Okay, we have got some aggressive timelines and some work, so you'll be seeing emails from Anya and myself. Really good meeting today. Thank you all for participating. Really appreciated that, and see you in July.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. And Molly, feel better soon.
Yes.
It's one of those things that I just I avoided being ill for 4 years, but here I am.
Well, when you feel better, let me know, and I will come with some kind of tentative schedule for our in-between meetings.
Oh, thank you, Lindsay. Okay, I will. See everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.